is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City.
Can I welcome members and officers here at City Hall and the public here in the gallery or watching on the webcast to the first GLA Oversight Committee meeting of the Assembly year. Please may I remind participants to turn your phones off or put them on silent, and can I also ask members to ensure that any electronic devices are not placed in front of microphones, and can I ask the clerk, Nicoletta Kemp, to confirm any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. Apologies for absence have been received from Assembly Member McCartney and Duval.
Thank you. And I'm sure everyone on the committee would like to welcome Nicoletta back from her maternity leave. I'm sure she's delighted to be back with us, but we've certainly missed her anyway. So thanks, Nicoletta, for being back here with us today. Declarations of interest. Can we note the list of offices held by Assembly members? And can I ask members if they have any disclosable pecuniary interests in specific items listed on the agenda? Great, thank you. Can we note the...
Sorry, Chair, on the declarations.
Sorry, I have an interest but not a pecuniary interest in the rapporteurship item. On to membership of committee. Can we note the membership and chairing arrangements for the committee, which were agreed by the Assembly at its annual meeting on the 11th of May? Thank you. Terms of reference and standing delegations. Can we note the terms of reference for the GLA Oversight Committee as agreed by the London Assembly at its annual meeting on the 11th of May? And the standing delegations to the chair of the Oversight Committee. Thank you. Noted, but Eva's welcome. The re-establishment of working groups and panels. Can we note the re-establishment of the Chief Officer Performance Review Panel and the Standing Orders Working Group with the terms of reference, seat allocation and membership as set out by the London Assembly at its annual meeting on the 11th of May?
Noted.
Thanks very much. On to any other business the Chair considers urgent. I now propose that we move to item 13, urgent business. Members will see that a supplementary agenda has been circulated with reports on the GLA Savings and Efficiencies Programme and London's Resilience, which have been admitted to the agenda for the reasons set out on the supplementary agenda. In order to assist with the conduct of business, understanding order 2.2d, I would like to propose that we vary the agenda order and take these items next. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you so much. And with that note of lateness, thank you so much, Mary and Deanne, for making the time to be with us this afternoon with late notice of doing that. We really appreciate that. So moving on to the GLA Savings and Efficiency Programme update, did either of you want to start with an oral update? Thanks, Mary.
Thank you very much, Chairman. So I've just prepared just a short update, sort of just to recap where we are and what we have been focusing on. It's not very long. We've been asked to give an update on the outcome of the staff consultation that we have held related to saving just over £7 million in staffing cost. Now, this is 7 million of the 10 million we need to save this year, but we've consulted on the first 7, in fact, on 7.2 million. Just wanted to remind everybody where we are in terms of the consultation process now, because we have finished consultation, but we're still in the process of implementing. So the consultation was for the reduction of 101 posts across some parts of the GLA, and that consultation closed on the 8th of April, and we published our report into the outcomes of the consultation on the 5th of May, and I know you've been given a link to that report. Where we are now is we are now in the final stages of selection of staff into the posts which are remaining in the affected teams, so the ring fencing stage of the process, and we do hope to conclude that process by the beginning of July. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about the people that are involved and have been involved in this consultation. So we had to put 189 members of staff at risk at the start of this. As we speak now, about 80 of the 189 remain at risk. Although the numbers, for reasons which I'll explain in a minute, do change all the time. But at the moment, we're down to 80 at risk. The reduction in the number of at-risk staff to date, so from the 189 we started with to the 80 we have now, are due to a number of stages that we have now passed through. So we have accepted applications for voluntary redundancy from 39 of the at-risk staff. So they will be leaving the organisation and are no longer considered at risk. 32 of the original 189 have been matched directly into posts in the new structure. That's the so-called assimilation stage. And so far, we've had 27 of our at-risk staff redeployed into posts elsewhere in the GLA. So that's why we're stepping down in terms of numbers of people at risk. But Deanne and I have to say, all of our colleagues on the corporate management team are absolutely driven by our commitment to avoid compulsory redundancies if we possibly can. And some of those steps, obviously, are important steps towards that. But I do also, in introduction, just want to highlight two particular points to you. So the first is that as a result of the consultation that we ran with staff, we have made changes to our proposals. That's the first thing I want to say. The changes that we've made are laid out in the consultation outcome report, but there are a couple that I want to highlight here. We've made changes both to our selection processes and to some of the proposals for change in particular units. So in terms of the process changes that we've made, the most significant change we made was to accept GLA Unison's alternative proposal for ring fencing arrangements. So, in fact, we did talk about this when we came to this committee last time. We had proposed to ring fence staff either at the same grade, one grade up, or one grade below, all of which assumes a 70% like-for-like match between job descriptions. But in response to the feedback that we've had from Unison, we have ring-fenced now. So we've now ring-fenced staff at the same grade, 2 grades up, 2 grades below. Again, assuming the 70% match. Also, in response to consultation feedback, we clarified our position on trial periods for redeployed staff. So if staff are redeployed, and 27 have been so far, staff will be offered a minimum 4-week trial period in the role, which will be extended to a maximum of 12 weeks if there are specific training needs to allow them to thrive in the role to which they've been redeployed. In terms of individual units, and again, in response to the feedback, we have reinstated some posts that we were planning to delete. And we have done this in response to consultation feedback, where, looking at the feedback, we have been convinced by the case that we were cutting some teams too far and running risks to delivery by doing so. So we have reinstated 6 posts that we were previously going to cut. 6 posts in total. Some of them are in the digital experience unit and some of them are in the public liaison unit. We have also paused our plans for changes in the civil society and sports unit, where we were looking to change our arrangements for the team that works on volunteer deployment. And we have paused that because, again, looking at the feedback from staff across the GLA, we feel we need to review those proposals more fully. So we're not saying we're pulling away from them entirely at this point, but we're saying we're going to review them. So, of course, in making those changes in response to the consultation feedback, it means that we will not achieve the full £7.2 million savings we consulted on, because I can't change the plan to delete posts and still save the same money. We will not know the final figure that we've achieved through this first consultation until July, when everybody stopped moving through the process. But I estimate that we will still save about 6.6 million from this round of savings and efficiencies. And the 6.6 takes into account the posts we have reinstated and our pause on the volunteer team. As I've already said, and you will remember from last time, we need to find £10 million in staffing savings in total. So the shortfall on this phase, because I've responded to the feedback, means that we will have to add that into the remaining phase of consultation, which we will plan to do in the autumn. And then the only other point I want to make in introduction is related to the focus that, again, Deanne and I and our colleagues have maintained on attempting to mitigate any risks that staff in any of our protected groups are disproportionately impacted by these savings and efficiencies. So, again, you will recall this, our first equalities impact assessment, which we published alongside our original consultation, did show that our at-risk group, the 189 at the time, was broadly in line with our workforce, broadly matched the profile of our workforce, with the exception of a slightly increased number of older staff and of a slightly increased number of women in that 189 that we might expect, but broadly similar to the workforce. So we committed up front, and we spoke about this last time, to doing all we can to ensure that staff from protected groups are appropriately supported right through the process. So we are tracking the makeup of our at-risk group as it shifts and reduces. We are tracking the makeup of our at-risk group really carefully, to ensure that if any evidence of disproportionate impact emerges, that we see it straight away and can pause and think about what action we need to take. And one example of that is that we are starting our ring-fence interviews this week, and have not only insisted that anyone sitting on a selection panel has undertaken our refresher course on inclusive recruitment. We've got nobody sitting on panels who hasn't done that refresher course. But at the same time, we are monitoring interview outcomes closely as we go for any sign of disproportionate impact on specific groups. And, so far, so good. So, Chairman, I'm going to close my update there, just with a final recognition that a lot of staff here in City Hall and, of course, in Union Street have spent the last few weeks very worried about their jobs. We have tried hard to support everyone while aiming to get through this process reasonably quickly to provide certainty as soon as we can. But with that, I'll close the update.
Thank you, Mary. Deanne, did you want to add anything, or was at this point no?
No, thank you.
Okay. Assembly Member Georgie.
Thank you, Mary, in particular, for giving us that
quite comprehensive breakdown, and I think I'm not entirely sure if it makes my question redundant. I don't think it does, because I appreciate that you obviously alluded to the people that have taken the voluntary redundancy already, so I've taken that into account. So the consultation originally proposed a net loss of 101.4 roles across the GLA. Following consultation, several posts were reinstated or deletions deferred. So caveated, obviously, with everything you've just said, what is the revised net saving figure, both in staffing number and cost savings? Now, you've mentioned the cost savings of just over £6 million, but with regard to the net number of posts, do we have a concrete answer? I appreciate it's a moving target at the moment.
It's a moving target, but right now we have reinstated in full 6 posts, and then another 5 are on pause, pending the sort of fuller review of the proposal in civil society and sport.
Okay.
And then you've already got the 6.6, as you say.
Right, okay. And in terms of this programme and the cost to implement, including redundancy costs, consultancy, recruitment, restructuring, retraining, do we, is that coming in or out of the net figures in terms of savings, in terms of running this process? Because I can't imagine it's all simply internal. Are there any external costs attached to any of this, training and all the things that you've mentioned already?
So you're right, there are other costs. Those aren't taken into account in the 6.6 at this point. I mean, I don't know, Deanne, if you want to talk. We are, we're offering quite a lot of training to people at risk, for example. That's a good. Yeah. And then I'll come back on redundancy costs afterwards.
So we have put a package of support, which is available both through Mind. So there is kind of emotional support that is available. There is some counselling sessions that we have also brought in external support for. The safe space webinars that we're doing, there have been 6 webinars that have been offered, covering anything from understanding and managing change to kind of after the outcome moving forward. So there's 6 sessions that we have organised, which are webinars. We've got some which are on career management as well. We've got some career coaching, which is one-to-one coaching. And we have been running workshops on application and CV writing, interview skills, and having career conversations. And that is in addition to the ongoing support that is available through mental health advocates, the employee assistance programme, financial wellbeing, and Unison and other groups have done extra support as well. So yes, you are right, we have put an additional package of support available to people who are at risk or have been going through this process.
And all of those are very good things, I'm sure we'd all agree, but we don't yet have a net cost for that and how it impacts on the savings themselves. I appreciate you may not have an answer at this moment because we haven't gone through the process, but that is something that you will compile as a final number.
In the end, of course, yes, we'll have a sort of a full costing for the process. We talked last time sort of theoretically about redundancy costs and that we were establishing a reserve to cover those. I mean, we do know, and obviously because we've accepted the 39 applications for voluntary redundancy, and of course, most people taking voluntary redundancy are working their notice. There's a few exceptions for particular reasons, but generally most people are working their notice. And of course, the settlement agreements related to those are being made now. Of the 39 that we've accepted, we are already clear, pretty much clear, on the cost of those redundancies. But we're also clear is when you compare those costs with the full costs of those 39 staff continuing in the organisation, that we pay back the redundancy costs in well less than a year. But all of that can be laid out when we get to the end of July, and we can do sort of first account of this first part of the programme.
Thank you. And final question from me, based off of what you've both said, which was very comprehensive in relation to the sort of as we know, it's devastating anybody, losing their job, but equally it's just very difficult on those that have the threat of losing their job hanging over their head as well. And in terms of those support packages available, once they've gone through the process of being informed whether they will essentially, there'll be a forced redundancy or potential job losses, how long does that package extend for post that conversation? So I'm talking like Mind, the training, the CV writing, things like that. How long does that go on for?
So those are services that are, so we haven't kind of timed a particular finish date because we haven't got a final finish date yet when people are actually leaving the organisation. So these are programmes that are ongoing at the moment, and we will keep them under review and decide whether or not there is further support beyond that. We do have outplacement support, which is one-off support, and is available to any staff that are made redundant. So we will review and keep this package. We'll look at the packages of support that we've got and make sure that we tailor that on an ongoing basis to what is needed.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I've got Assembly Member Russell.
Thank you. I just want to pick up on one of the issues that seemed to be brought up by several different teams, which was concerns about workload going forward. And it sort of says, the executive directors and I will be keeping a close eye on demand and on workloads in restructured teams, which is reassuring. But I'm just wondering how you're going to monitor that, particularly because one of the responses to workload, the suggestion of workload pressures was using project management tracking software, which isn't going to address all workload issues. So, just what's the monitoring process on workload going forward?
Thank you, Assembly Member Russell. And of course, the other factor that is worrying people that comes very strongly through the consultation feedback is, of course, that we've taken out these posts largely for efficiency purposes. But of course, we've also got some new programmes and projects coming out of the budget that also need to be delivered. And so it's the combination of those two alongside also that is worrying people. So on that one, we are really clear that if there are new resource requirements from some of the new programmes, we can't expect teams that have now had jobs taken out of them to be able to take on new work. So the new programmes will have to be very efficient and effective in the way we plan to resource them, but they'll need to be resourced without putting unreasonable demands on teams that have been cut. In terms of monitoring it, I think so. We're just at the beginning of this process now, of course, because now that we're into the consultation and once we're through the ring fencing, everyone will start to shift into their new positions. I think in the first instance, of course, the thing that we have been doing, which won't have been visible to you, is because, as we know, these proposals don't cut across the whole organisation. They cut, this tranche cuts across some. We've had a very tight-knit working group of Deanne's team and assistant directors working together through this whole process. And it is going to be those assistant directors and their executive directors whose job it will be in the first instance to manage demand, appropriate demand on those restructured teams. And if there are issues arising, to escalate that. And we don't have it in place yet because we're not quite there, but we have spoken about having the right place where the assistant directors and executive directors can come together and just test that the resources that people aren't being overloaded in the way that people feared in the consultation. So sort of an extra layer of oversight, I think, on those teams which have been cut. Now, we have been, even in developing the proposals, it's worth saying this, I think, in developing I've said several times before, of course, we've developed those alongside Mayor's Office colleagues. So, there's been agreement about where we should look for the efficiencies. We know what some of the new programmes are, and we're managing those separately. And, collectively, we all need to make sure that we continue to take into account that this team has had X posts taken from it and this team has had Y posts taken from it. And we live within the resource that the teams now have. So we are, you were quoting, I think, from my response to the consultation, we are very live to it. And, we're on a promise to those teams to keep a very close eye on their on the demands on them. But so we're not there yet, but I am confident if we start getting problems from teams, we'll have the right escalation routes in place.
Okay, if you're feeling confident about that, we'll obviously see how it turns out in the wash. But that's reassuring to hear that you feel you've got the escalation routes in place.
Thank you. Assemblymember Baker.
Thanks. And yeah, I've got a couple of questions. First is to pick up on what Assemblymember Russell was talking about, but to just take it back to the original process on deciding on the proposals. So when the senior managers put together proposals for their teams, where they were proposing to take posts out, were they required to demonstrate what work wouldn't be done as a result of that? Was the assurance at that stage understanding, okay, well, if you're going to take X number of posts out, this is the work that's not going to be done? Did that form part of the sort of evidence base that came to, the sign-off of the proposals overall? So do you then have something to compare to? It's just like, well, you said you weren't going to have to do this, therefore, do you see what I mean? So what's the other end of it?
So I just wanted to remind everybody, Assemblymember Baker, that these first proposals were put together by a very small group. Mm-hmm. Remember, we kept it all very tight. We didn't want people worrying before they had to. And as we worked through the budget process, we had to wait until we were sure about what we needed to do. So I can't say to you that every manager was asked about
Apologies, I didn't mean every manager in the organisation. I meant the decision makers.
Yes, okay.
So the decision makers,
yes,
when they put forward their proposals, did they put forward what work would then not be done? So I understand you weren't going to go through everyone, and that's what the consultation is for.
So executive directors and the assistant directors were asked to put forward proposals where they believed there would be limited impact on our delivery for outcomes for Londoners. That was the brief from the Mayor's Office. And so as part of that, there were proposals for what would stop. And some of those have been developed further since, of course. I mean, we've seen several about actually, we're no longer going to do this, we're no longer going to do that. And of course, that is, though, in some instances, what some teams were responding to when they were saying, actually, yes, but you're still underestimating the amount of resource we would need for what's left. So we tested that a bit through the consultation and have responded to it. We do need now to make sure that those sort of those beliefs and those commitments about what would stop are stuck to.
Yeah, and so the information about what work wouldn't be done, you believe has all come out through the consultation and the consultation papers and in consultation. Yeah, there's nothing else in terms of information that should have been shared. This isn't a gotcha, by the way. I'm just genuinely, I genuinely so that all that information should be out there, and staff affected should have been able to see that and therefore consult.
Yeah. So I would say, so we have been, I really think we have been very transparent. Yeah. Are all those lists of work that would stop in the consultation document, no, but I do know that they have been shared with the assistant directors of the teams.
Okay, so if there was information that did need to be understood by those teams in terms of workload, then that should be accessible.
It should be.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's right. Sorry, Diane.
If I may add, Assembly Member Baker, we had about 218 responses back to the consultation. That was from individuals, from groups, from Unison as well, but also from managers. So as they'd had chance to look at the proposals, that was where a lot of feedback about what impacts that would have on teams, on groups, and that was part of the consideration process that we have gone through as with the assistant directors and with CMT, and have made the decision to reinstate a number of roles where we have felt that there was work that was at risk if we didn't reinstate that role. So we have gone through a very detailed process of looking at every bit of feedback that we had to consider the impact that these policy changes, these proposals would have on individuals, but also the workload as well.
Yeah. And I think that is actually, although obviously it's had an impact on the budgets, I think that is a good sign that where additional evidence has been forward, you've said, okay, no, actually, we need to look at this again. I think that is actually a good thing, although obviously there will be impacts. Can I just ask an additional question about the numbers? So thanks for running through those numbers, and it's really positive to see how many people have already been redeployed. The missing number is how many vacancies there are within scope of the reorganisation. So there's 80 people still at risk. How many posts, not including vacancies elsewhere, how many posts within the scope of the reorganisation there are? Because I'm just trying to get down to what number we were looking at potentially compulsory redundancy, because we need to drive that down as much as we possibly can.
So I was asked exactly that same question at the all-staff briefing, and I did give a number, but I gave it with a caveat.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the same, even though the numbers shift. That's the other problem.
Yes.
But we still had about 60 vacancies. So it's quite a big number.
Yeah.
Why? The caveat is, and of course why I've been reluctant to talk about that number too much, is that we've got roughly 80 people ring-fenced, but the odds for those people aren't equal.
No, I totally understand.
I know you will understand that.
It's not one big pot.
Exactly, it's not one big ring. So there'll be ring fences of just 2 people for some jobs. And actually, we've had ring fences of 2, and somebody has decided to take a redeployment opportunity, and so somebody else has just been matched. Yeah. We'll have ring fences with many more people in them for other jobs. So I have been. So that was the caveat. People. It's very difficult for people to get a sense of their odds purely through those numbers.
Yeah.
But that said. I am hopeful at this point that we'll be able to show at the end of this that we really have done everything we can to minimise compulsory redundancies.
Yeah, no, understood. That's helpful. Thank you. And finally, you mentioned in the consultation paper, there's specific reference to the skills and employment team who already know that they will be going through a reorganisation. Obviously, that's a very difficult situation to be in. It's also a doubly difficult situation when redeployment opportunities are being taken by people who are going through it now. Is that something you've specifically considered about if there is anything that can be done to ease that pressure when that comes down the line?
I'll say something, and then Dia may want to add to it. So yes, we are already thinking about that, you're absolutely right. There are people worrying that all the opportunities will be gone. We did take some really deliberate action to protect vacancies for redeployment opportunities. this time, although actually it's just worth remembering that we started doing that in just before Christmas for a consultation that we launched in end of February. And we have had significant number of opportunities available to people. The absolute intention is to do everything that we have done this time, and learn lessons from what we've done this time, and pick that up and do it again next time, which will include trying to get to a bank of redeployment opportunities. Yeah. Of course, you know, the thing we've been trying to do all the way through this is keep that fine line between continuing to resource the vacancies so that we can keep delivering and protecting the vacancies for people who may be at risk down the line. So we will do the same again. We may have a bit of a period where we're not protecting vacancies, but we will absolutely have a plan to start banking them again in time for the next consultation.
And if for any reason and obviously you have a churn all the time, so vacancies will come up, but if for any reason that you find that you are having less vacancies, because obviously people who are redeployed, well, you know, they may then move on for all sorts of reasons, but they also have expressed a commitment not to leave on voluntary redundancy, so you wouldn't expect them possibly to stick. Will there be any consideration of ensuring that people in any later reorganisation have time for vacancies to come up, and consider that if actually you find you've not got as many vacancies as you'd hoped for in the organisation as a whole?
We can certainly think about that.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I know the concern is strong.
Yes.
From people who know they're in the next.
Yeah. So I just think a little bit of reassurance that you'll acknowledge and understand that that situation is difficult when it comes around, and take a look at that at the time. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Assembly Member Baker, the only thing I would just add is we also have new projects coming online, which so there is a slight challenge in that some of these weren't available at this time for this set, but they may be available for our phase 2. So there are new projects that are coming online that we will obviously look at prioritising any of those opportunities for anybody that will be in the redeployment process. Yeah. So we've got those are options that we're taking. Yeah. We will be looking at as well.
You'll have to be a little bit careful though, because if it does end up that you make anyone compulsory redundancy and redundant, and then you find another project comes on stream 2 weeks later that has jobs in it, then you might want to be a bit careful about that. Okay.
You're right. We have to have the whole picture visible to us the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. Assembly Member Georgiou.
Thank you, Chair. Mary, something you said prompted me to come in with a few other questions. How many posts are being deleted in the Mayor's office under this programme?
As we discussed last time, the Mayor's office is not part of this programme.
Okay. Now, you said, and I'm paraphrasing, and perhaps someone might be able to play back the video, the Mayor's team have been consulted during this process. Is that correct? That's what you said on possible efficiencies?
What I was referring to is that right at the beginning of this programme, we were asked by the Mayor, and therefore through the Mayor's office, to deliver an efficiency programme in the GLA. And as I've been very clear with staff from the very beginning, the areas that we were seeking efficiencies from, we had agreed with the Mayor's office that that's where we would seek efficiencies from. To the very point about workload and priorities, they needed to know where the jobs were coming out.
Yeah. So to confirm, you started that conversation at the beginning of the process with the Mayor's office. You have had no subsequent conversations with the Mayor's office throughout this process about where possible efficiencies could be made?
Well, there hasn't been the need to. We've been delivering this programme.
Well, I didn't ask about the need. Has it happened or not?
The thing I've been doing with the Mayor's office is updating them on the progress of this programme.
Right, and has feedback come the other way as to maybe this is where you could cut or this is where you can make efficiencies?
No, because we've laid out where we're going to make the cuts. That's what we laid out in the consultation. We're now implementing that consultation.
Right, and I'll be entirely honest, you and I could have a complete back and forth about how appropriate it is that the mayor has input, or the mayor's office has input on where people are going to be losing their jobs but not willing to do it in his own office, but we'll forego that because you've gone through that the previous time. But instead of what I would ask you is that we know that this process will harm morale within the organisation. Now, do you have an opinion as to what you've just said, which is you consulted the mayor's team, you've been updating them on where efficiencies will be made, not in his office, not in the mayor's team, but everybody else's job, or at least this particular crop of jobs that are at risk? You know, do you think that probably isn't very good for morale within the organisation? So you've consulted the mayor's office on where people can lose their jobs, not in his, but you know, does that not impact morale whatsoever?
I'm missing the point, I think.
Well, it wasn't a point, it was a question.
To what I said. I said that we were asked to deliver an efficiency programme by the mayor. That needs to link to, and we can back right back. So we started, as we know, we've got 14 delivery programmes which lay out broadly the mayor's priorities and the GLA's priorities. We looked afresh at those programmes, which, as you know, have only come in over the last 6 months or so. We looked back at those and said, OK, now we've got the programmes, now we're clear on the priorities. Where are there opportunities to use taxpayers' money more wisely through driving efficiencies? Where can we merge teams? Where can we stop work that's no longer a priority? Where are there other things that we might do differently? And that's all within the prism of the 14 strategic programmes in which are enshrined the mayor's priorities. That prism has driven where we take efficiencies, because, as I said to, I think, Assembly Member Baker, we have done our best to find efficiencies where we do not think there will be undue impact on the delivery of the priorities. So the whole thing starts with, what are the mayor's priorities? So that's what I was referring to.
Perhaps my memory is a little hazy, given the various committees that I sit on with regard to both budget and obviously oversight and audit and all these sorts of things. I was always under the impression that the reason for efficiencies was due to the settlement, not from the mandate set by the mayor. You know, I always thought it was due to our local government settlement and the settlement received from the mayor, not the mayor necessarily changing his priorities. But you've just said, well, the mayor said we've got to find efficiencies because we've changed our priorities. So, you know, which one is it? Is it both?
Well,
is it one or the other?
we have been through this before.
Yeah.
It's
I told you, my memory's
both.
hazy, Mary.
Well, we've been through it before.
Yeah.
We need to, in the light of financial constraints, where, you know, we're not the only ones to be living within that, we need to make sure our resources are used most efficiently as possible. And that's what we developed the programme to do.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. I can't see any further questions. So with that, we've reached the end of the discussion. So thank you to our guests for answering our questions today. As always, you're welcome to stay, but you may wish to leave. And just one final thank you, both Mary and Deanne, for coming on short notice. We really appreciate it, and for the update today. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We will leave, if that's okay.
We won't be offended. Can I ask the committee to note the report as background to putting questions to the invited guests and note the subsequent discussion? And can you delegate authority to the chair in consultation with the deputy chair and party group lead members to agree any output arising from the discussion? Thank you very much. Is Catherine ready, or do we need a break? We'll probably take a couple of minutes just so that we can get Catherine in, but don't run off too far. Yeah. We now move on to our next discussion item on the priorities for London's resilience, and I would like to welcome the following guests who have joined us in the chamber for the discussion. Catherine Richardson back with us, the Director of London Resilience for the GTA, and Gahita Jayatileka, Co-Chair, London Communities Emergencies Partnership. I'm so sorry, did I butcher it again? Okay, sorry. Feel free to correct me or Assembly members, sorry. We were expecting to have Robin Knox with us today, but she has submitted apologies. So should members wish to submit any questions to her, this can be done in writing following today's meeting. So I don't know between you both who would be best to give us perhaps an update on the priorities for London's resilience, or if you both wanted to open with an oral update. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can you hear me all right? Yeah, great. I'm happy to start off, and Geetika might want to talk about things from her perspective. I mean, it's been a really busy but productive period since I was last in front of the committee. We've made progress against both our strategic aims and our operational priorities as well. So we've been strategically continuing to embed our whole of society approach. So that's through initiatives like the New London Resilience Equalities Partnership, a range of community engagement and training initiatives, and developing a user-friendly and accessible community risk register. We successfully delivered the first year of our Trailblazers programme, so that's £670,000 of MHCLG funding. That's about strengthening leadership, accountability, integration across the partnership. And we've been really proactively strengthening partnerships and shared learning with domestic and international colleagues. And you've heard me talk before about the importance of those partnerships and all about making friends before we need them. Would it be helpful for me to say a bit about what we've been doing operationally? Because, of course, it has been a busy time. We've been responding to incidents, including the awful Golders Green attack. We've been supporting partner coordination against the raised UK national threat level. So that's about enhanced monitoring, dynamic risk assessment, and multi-agency coordination where that's required. We stood up our London Coordination Centre to oversee the delivery of several major events, New Year's Eve, the London Marathon. And so that's about, again, coordinating that multi-agency space. And we have our busy sort of drumbeat of training, exercising. So we've been training on multi-agency gold incident command courses. It's called Magic, which is never quite as exciting or different kind of exciting as people expect. Local authority gold training, Logis training, and we've had a couple of major exercises since I last saw you. The part of Pegasus, which was a pandemic exercise, which we talked about because we did some elements of that before, and Exercise Sentinel, which was a cyber exercise that you might be interested in. Lots of other things I could talk about, but you might want to ask about areas that are most interesting to you, and I'm sure Geetika will want to add what's happening in her area too.
Geetika, did you want to add anything?
Thank you. So just to give members a sort of introduction to the London Community Emergency Partnership and the work we do, our role is very much about unlocking the potential of charities and community groups to contribute to building a strong and resilient London. Our work very much feeds into some of those priorities which Catherine has outlined. And this year, I think some of the highlights for us have been holding a conference which brought together around 90 community groups, statutory responders, local authorities and others called Ready Together, which was all about sharing good practice, learning from each other and building some of those trusted relationships. Alongside that, we continue with work to build capacity and skills and confidence in the voluntary and community sector. And that covers a range of different sorts of initiatives, and also to build relationships between local community groups and borough resilience forums, so strengthening things both at a local level and a pan-London level.
Thanks. And obviously the structure that we've got now has been in place for 2 years. Yeah. Do you think it's doing the job? Do you think it's time for a review of that structure? Is there anywhere in which you think there's gaps?
Can I just clarify, when you say structure, do you mean...
The structure of how we've been working from the London Assembly, sorry. In terms of, I think the objective, just to be clear, was to work closer with charities and communities. And so is that working on that level? Yeah. And then, Catherine, I'll come to you on the same question. But I wondered from your perspective, does the structure, how it's working with charities and community groups, is that working?
From our side, I think we definitely see an increased kind of engagement with the charity and the community sector, both through the work that LSEP itself does and also the relationships and, I guess, kind of interest and engagement from the London Resilience team and the community engagement team, I think, in particular. I don't know if that sort of answers the structural question.
Is there any changes that you would make to it, or do you think that what we have at the moment is delivering?
So I think definitely we would say it's delivering. I think in terms of changes, I'm probably not the right person to ask about the sort of internal structures. I think from our side, we always want things to kind of continue to progress, and that's sort of our role in the system, is to continue to sort of press for those changes to happen.
I guess as someone on the coalface kind of delivering outputs, I'd say you are we can get too internal here, so sometimes it's nice to hear if it works or not from those closer to what's actually happening. Yeah. But Catherine, I'd ask you the same question as well, if you're confident in the structure as it is.
Yes, thank you. So you're right, the London Resilience Unit will have been together for 2 years next month, and you know that bringing that together was all about having the whole resilience cycle in one place, from the preparing for and responding to incidents, the situational awareness around that, and bringing that together with the community resilience and the integration and prevention. And so I think that that structure does still make sense and is working well. I mean, thinking about LSEP's Ready Together conference that Geetika was just talking about, we had, I mean, I spoke at that, and it was a really good conference, bringing people together. But even within the London Resilience Unit, we had people from our communities team, but also from our risk team, and kind of across the that whole sort of resilience cycle. So I think we're showing that it's helping us to be more together in that way.
Perfect, thank you. And Catherine, we've just had Mary Hartley in here talking about the changes to the organisation. Are there any changes that are going to affect your team?
Yes, so the London Resilience Unit has been part of the Savings and Efficiencies programme. So we will be losing 2 posts through that. We're also making some savings through technology, and we've also regraded 2 of our posts through that programme.
I'm guessing that means the regrading is downgrading. So that's going to affect those people in post now?
Yes.
Okay. And what are all these changes taken together going to mean for your team and delivery?
Well, we're looking at the changes, partly the kind of budgetary context and the sort of savings and efficiency that you've talked through with Mary, but also the change in risk picture, which we might also want to talk about, and the increasing complexity and interconnectedness of risk, and some risk certainly around things like cyber, and the impacts from what's happening internationally increasing. So really both of those things mean that we need to work a bit differently. So it's certainly not about doing what we've already been doing and kind of top slicing and trying to just do a little bit less of it. It will mean a real change in the way that we're working. So we will be merging together 2 of our existing teams that currently work on capability and risk, and bringing that together to look at that work quite differently.
Sounds like it's going to be slightly harder to deliver as you are now.
I mean, certainly it's never easy to absorb any kind of cuts. And of course, you know, as you would expect, I would always advocate for investment into resilience. But I think the the cuts that we are making, I'm still confident that we can deliver what we need to do in terms of our kind of statutory things that we have to do, as well as the things outside of that, like our work with communities that we very much want to do.
Okay. I suppose you say it's obviously going to advocate, but a lot of times people come in here and just say, no, it's fine. So actually it's quite refreshing to hear you say that honestly, that it is going to be challenging, and obviously you'd rather still have the capacity. But I guess we won't go into whether you'd like the Mayor's office to give you some resource or not. We're going to move on to communities and resilience. If I could ask Assembly Member Bakari.
Thank you, Chair. So we're going to focus on the Community Emergency Partnership and its achievements to date. Could you tell us a little bit about the community groups that you're engaging with in resilience work? And specifically, I'm interested to know where you think we need to improve on. Which community groups do you think we need to do better in terms of engagement?
Thank you. So our partnership spans over 200 organisations at the moment, and we are always kind of looking to continue to develop those partnerships because risks change, new communities, community groups come up, and so that kind of ability to use the networks we have to reach even further is a really important part of how we work. Sort of key to the way that we work is the local infrastructure organisations across London, so councils for voluntary services or volunteer centres, which kind of span each borough. And through them, we often are able to reach out to a myriad of other groups. In addition, I think particularly given some of the sort of recent challenges, the anti-Semitic attacks in North London, we're also working very closely with our colleagues at the London Borough's Faith Network to sort of engage with and make sure that we are keeping really connected to the concerns that different faith communities, particularly the Jewish community, but not just the Jewish community, are sort of feeding back to us. So I think it's like a very kind of live and evolving network that we have. And I think part of the onus on us, given the sort of changing nature of the landscape, is that ability to be able to create new connections as and when we need. And Catherine talked a little bit about the sort of making friends before you need them. I think in the voluntary and community sector, it's very much sort of prioritising trusted relationships so that we can kind of build on those through our networks, through to their networks and into communities to make sure that we're able to kind of engage in a way that people will listen and kind of want to be involved with.
Yeah, but what about the challenges, though? I mean, I'm a founder of an interfaith charity. I don't think it's been as difficult as it has in recent time. I think it's probably the most difficult thing to do in any kind of community cohesion work at the moment. So are you not seeing those challenges as well?
It's very much a challenging time. I don't think there's any sort of doubt about that, both in terms of the sort of landscape, the responses that we're engaged with, but also I think in terms of some of the kind of funding and actually we can see that particularly for infrastructure organisations there is a real squeeze at the moment, a financial squeeze, which affects them in terms of their capacity to engage with resilience activity on a really basic level. Are there enough people? Is there enough kind of people resource to be able to attend meetings or show up to training, or even just to sort of have the relationships that build those relationships if it's not critical. So I think
there's a bit of work to kind of get people to engage with you and see the potential of the training and the work that you do. Yeah,
I think there's a huge appetite, to be honest, from the voluntary and community sector. I think people completely get it, and often we see that if there is an incident, if there is a response needed, as with COVID, people kind of lean in and make it happen, because that's kind of why we do the jobs we do. But I think it's some of the more kind of proactive engagement in planning, attending training. That's the sort of thing that if there's not a real urgent need and you're not funded to do it, actually it's very hard to be able to find that
I mean, I'm
resource.
seeing a lot of the challenges and I can see a lot of disillusionment as well. You know, I've been in this area of work for decades, and I know that there's been work before to bring communities together, but it is so much harder right now. And one of the things that the London Resilience Unit strategic priorities is to counter misinformation and disinformation. If anything, we've seen an increase of this recently, especially on social media, and it's encouraged types of racism that I've never seen before. I mean, the previous weekend we saw a protest where we had people say, if you want to save this country, we have to remove Islam from every single place of authority. It's not too late to get Islam out of the classroom. We're talking about rape jihad. That's explicit Islamophobia that has been risen up through this misinformation and this disinformation that has been spread throughout social media. What is the London Resilience Unit doing to tackle and counter this?
Thank you for setting that out so powerfully about why it's so important to tackle the mis and disinformation. You know very well that this is something not just affecting London, not just nationally, but internationally. A chronic risk. It's going to be a long-term risk, and it affects cohesion, but also public health, security. You know, there's lots of different areas of impact of mis and disinformation, and it's very difficult to tackle. You'll know this very well. It spreads much quicker than official information. As officials, we have to make sure that our information is absolutely right, so we need all the facts before we can go out, whereas if you're making something up, then you don't need to do that. So there's lots of reasons why it can be very difficult to tackle. And you might remember from the last time I gave evidence, I talked a bit about some research on mis and disinformation that we were paying for through that Trailblazers fund, and so we've been working on that, and with the City Intelligence Unit as well, who have written a really useful report about mis and disinformation, kind of setting out a bit of the problem, but also what are the effective things that you can do about it. Now, the evidence does say that there isn't a kind of single effective solution, but the kind of things that do help, and so therefore the kind of things that we're doing and want to do more of are things like providing the right advice and support to those trusted voices. So Geetika's just talking about whether that's faith leaders or community leaders, ensuring that they have the tools, they know where the right channels of information are, because they're the voices that are listened to perhaps more than MPs or even police or these people who were perhaps trusted previously. It's about kind of how we do communicate. So we're leading the London Communication Resilience Partnership. I know all the acronyms, but I try not to. I try and use real words in front of you.
We've got the brief. Don't worry.
I get them in the wrong order. So the communications group, so that is brought together so we can start talking about things like heat, or we can talk about measles or whatever the things are, but also in an emergency, they will come together and say, right, what are the key lines? What do we want to get out? And that way we can get them out across all of our channels at the same time. So
I'm really glad that you said that you use the word trusted community leaders. I think that's such an important thing that you just said there. But the problem is trust has been broken. And it's because of the lack of reaction to people who are allowed to say this in our city in London, and nothing happens. There's no repercussion. How are you keeping that trust? How do you maintain that?
I mean, the trusted voices that I'm talking about is not, I'm not talking about my voice here. I'm talking about the way that we're working with the faith leaders, the community leaders who are already there and trusted, and who I think are saying lots of the right things about calling out the Islamophobia and calling out the anti-Semitism. And of course, we'll do that as well, but I don't have that kind of those trusted public channels, if you like. So it's about understanding who is already trusted and giving them the right tools.
Yeah, but the challenge for you is that I'm sure that you're getting feedback to say that they don't see anything to fix this problem that they see that is getting worse and worse. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as Geeta said as well, it feels like a very challenging environment, and you set it out very well at the start of your line of questioning about, you know, it feels really difficult out there, and it feels very, you know, communities are scared and communities are angry, and, you know, and that's a very difficult thing to manage.
What do you want to help do the job that you need to do to bring some sort of, you know, that trust back that things can improve and things can get better through the work that you do? What do you need?
I think the support of the work that we are doing through LSEP and through other community partners is really vital. I mean, for me, I care about these issues personally, but also because of the impact on London's resilience. At the same time, we are not the leads for communities, and we're not the leads for some of these issues. So it's about understanding where does the London Resilience Unit put itself here, and where do we add the most value compared to the value that we can add in our frameworks for flooding or cyber and that kind of thing. So it's about making sure that we are kind of providing our advice and expertise in the way that is most helpful.
Well, hopefully you've got a few initiatives like the London Resilient Communities Programme that launched last year and the Community Resilience Fund. Are you seeing this as an opportunity to really move things forward? What are the challenges and how are you spending that money to make sure that it really does make a difference?
Well, I think you've set out a lot of the challenges very well. I would add to the list of challenges, if you like, the fact that when we talk about communities and London communities, when we're talking about, you know, hundreds, if not thousands, of different groups and different ways that people are part of different kinds of communities, and so we can talk about having programmes in every borough, which we do, but we know that that we're not reaching every Londoner, we're not reaching every community, and so we're quite kind of mindful about that.
I've got Wandsworth, Lambeth, Hillingdon, Waltham Forest, Newham, Westminster, Merton, Tower Hamlets, in the City of London. But that's not every part of London, is it? You've targeted certain areas.
So we do now fund, through the Community Resilience Fund, we are now funding a programme in every borough. So that will probably be progress since the last time that I came to give evidence. So that's the programme where they work with the borough on a resilience project. So that's about making new plans or asset maps or communications protocols. I don't know if Geeta might want to add some of the detail of what we do in there.
Thank you. So just to pick up on the first point about the kind of challenges, I think one of the real difficulties is that there isn't a kind of neat shortcut to building strong communities. And so in addition to the work that LSEP is doing, which is very much in that kind of resilient space, I think, you know, we also recognise that there is, you know, a plethora of other work on some of the kind of systemic drivers of inequality, you know, cohesion that needs to happen. So I just sort of wanted to accept that, you know, that, or acknowledge that point, that it is much more complex than any kind of one agency or initiative. In terms of the Community Resilience Fund, I think we are, you know, significant supporters of that, because it is one of the sort of few initiatives which is kind of getting money into local infrastructure organisations to be able to do some of that local planning, and through that to be able to kind of engage smaller community groups. I mean, there's a myriad of brilliant examples, and maybe that's something that we could send on kind of afterwards. But I guess some of the ones I wanted to flag, so in Enfield Voluntary Action have been doing some really interesting
Perhaps you
work.
could just send us all the details, if
Yes.
that's okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
yeah.
great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to Assembly Member Russell.
Thank you. Just very briefly, and picking up on what Assemblymember Bakari set out so very clearly, the division and the divisiveness and the blatant racism, whether that's Islamophobia, whether it's anti-Semitism, and every kind of racism that we are experiencing being spoken out loud on our streets and on our television screens, in our phones, on social media. It feels more extreme than, it reminds me a lot actually of the kind of febrile atmosphere that there was around the time of the vote to about whether or not we should leave the European Union. And it just feels that on a, as a risk to London's resilience, it just feels that there is a really heightened risk. And I just wonder, because you sort of talk about all the risks that you're dealing with, like flooding and the heat waves and everything else, but it's like this risk of this the fact that people feel emboldened to say things that I think potentially even 2 or 3 years ago people would not have felt able to say. And I have encountered so many constituents who are really, really upset and frightened by the scale of racism that they are encountering. And I'm just wondering, sort of, is there a sort of like, have you got some kind of sense of emergency resilience work going on around this? Because it does feel as if it's, the risk, we've seen people being injured in the street. It feels like, the risk just feels like it's growing. And I'm just wondering sort of what's the, so I totally get the building community resilience and working with those community organisations, but is there a sense of enough urgency about that?
I mean, I think, yes, in that, it's at the forefront of our mind, and that's why we're doing this, all of this work. But I think I would just go back to what I was saying to Assembly Member Bakari about our role in this and London Resilience's role in this, which is much more in that kind of multi-agency space when it comes to the kind of acute risks. So when those, because, it's absolutely not separate to that awful attack we saw in Golders Green as an example of coming out of that. So it's not to say that we treat them, as completely separate, because we understand how that works. But actually making sure that the people who are most expert in dealing with the kind of, whether it's the community tensions or extremism or crime, are kind of dealing with that, and we sort of plugged into it. We will support messaging and that kind of thing, but just understanding where we as London Resilience are kind of best placed to put our efforts, if you like.
So, and how does that kind of manifest in the reality of your day-to-day work? I mean, is there much more engagement on it than, is it like big sort of, blaring, this is urgent?
Yeah, so there's definitely more engagement with communities, and that's partly through LSEP and partly through our other community work. It also changes the way that we think about situational awareness and monitoring and insight, because we are very keen to understand what's happening in London, which again is not just about an acute incident here or there, but actually what do the pressures in London look like. So making sure that we're understanding them as well as we can and sharing information with whether it's boroughs or community groups.
Can I just
Yes.
answer that briefly as well? So I think alongside those points Catherine made from our perspective, I think there's also something really important about sort of not losing the narrative of the good things that are going on. And I don't, disagree with your points about absolutely the importance of this being something that is seen as an urgent and important priority. Alongside that sort of response side, I think there is something about recognising some of the good stuff that is happening. So I don't know if you're aware of the Million Acts of Hope initiative, which has started. There's the Joe Cox Foundation's Great Get Together. So there's a whole sort of push, I think, this in the months coming up, which is about building bridges, building connections, kind of opportunities for people to get together, to know each other. And I think actually that it's really important that we sort of don't let the sort of the hateful noise kind of drown that out. So I think that's definitely something that we are very kind of vested in. I think alongside that, we're definitely hearing from community groups and charities about a desire to build their own skills and capacity to deal with emerging kind of narratives and challenging conversations. And we've sort of been convening within the charity and community sector, over the past year, really, to hear what they're seeing and experiencing. And I think particularly for community groups that are working with kind of migrant, refugee communities, there is often a lot of fear about staff, about people using their services, about publicising services, and actually these are very kind of live things for the sector. So I think there's a sort of skills and capacity issue. There is a need for kind of leadership and sort of pulling together all of this, these conversations and the different initiatives that are going on.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now going to move on to our next section, which is on major risks, and I'm going to pass over to Assembly Member Mahfouz.
Thank you. I should say, by way of background, I used to work for a refugee charity. I used to run one in southwest London, so and work very closely with obviously a number of organisations who bring together charities and voluntary sector organisations across London. So really appreciate the work that happens and what goes into what it feels like really pushing water up a hill at the moment for what you're doing. And we've covered some of the key risks so far, and I think disinformation, misinformation, which has led to, I think, probably certainly in our lifetimes, the greatest amount of social division and lack of cohesion, polarisation, which has led to obviously the horrific anti-Semitic attacks, an absolutely abhorrent level of normalisation of Islamophobia across London and beyond. And of course, what we haven't even touched on things like the manosphere and male violence against women and girls, which is increasing as well. Obviously, cybersecurity, which I'll come back to, the climate crisis, and of course, the other man-made crisis, which is the supply chains that have come up as a result of the international wars that people have decided to go into as well. With all of that on your plate, Catherine, how do you decide what are the top risks that you need to focus on?
Thank you for setting that out really clearly about the complexity and the interconnectedness of some of these risks. I mean, in resilience, we always start from risk, understanding what might happen, what's the likelihood, what the impacts will be. And we usually start from the Cabinet Office reporting. So they will have a national team who are looking at risk. They will share that with us. We will take that and then think about, well, what does this mean for London? And actually, the very top risks for London don't change very much. And they are, severe weather, flooding, cyber, terrorism. And I've talked before about how those risks manifest in London, and because of the city that London is, the threat and the risk is higher, and the impacts can be quite different. But of course, you've kind of outlined there some of the international events, what we've seen from hostile states and cyber, and that changing relatively quickly what that risk landscape looks like. I mean, you would have seen the Resilience Action Plan from Cabinet Office from Central Government, which talks about the volatility of risk as well as the interconnectedness, and thinking about the exposure to economic shocks and technological changes, as well as what we might traditionally think about in the weather space or that kind of thing. I mean, that's one of the reasons, going back to changes within the London Resilience Unit, where we want to think about risk a little bit differently and try to be a bit more agile. So yes, looking at what Cabinet Office are telling us about what's happening, but also being able to think about what we're seeing and what we're understanding from our communities, and making that a bit more of a kind of two-way process. And then, of course, risk is important, but ultimately it's about, well, what are our capabilities to deal with what those risks are? And what we see in capabilities is actually there's a lot of common capabilities. So whether you're dealing with, let's say something, a bomb goes off from a terrorist, or it's a cyber attack from a hostile state, or it's a riot that's caused something, or it's a problem with a water. The consequences might all actually be the same, which is a flood, or which is, impact on transport, or whatever it is. So for us, really thinking about, well, what are the consequences, and what are those common capabilities, which will always be things like coordination and communication.
Okay, in terms of from your point of view, obviously, what are those community and groups and charities and voluntary organisations saying to you as to their priorities and the feedback you're getting from them?
Thank you. So I think, again, as Catherine said, I think within the kind of voluntary and community sector, we are trying to think about what are the ways in which we can mitigate some of those impacts, kind of no matter what the rationale for them or the reason for that. I think there's sort of a real sense at the moment of a kind of difficult economic situation, and you touched on conflict and the knock-on effects. I think there's a real sense that both at community level and at a kind of charity and community group level, that actually any kind of economic shock will be kind of added on to what's already been a prolonged period of economic challenge, cost of living increases, and that actually there isn't a huge amount of sort of resilience kind of within the system. Resources are feeling a little depleted. Within that, of course, the things we can do, the things which are within our control, is to engage with kind of resilience planning and exercising. And I think that's something that definitely we've been trying to work with the sector to engage them on. And we are seeing a kind of local borough level increasing engagement with the voluntary and community sector on kind of drafting up local plans that talks about how we're going to support residents to kind of navigate service disruption, or who would be best placed to kind of reach out to a group with a particular need in a variety of situations. And I think that's really all we can do, is to kind of continue that preparedness. I think it's difficult to be ready for kind of everything, but we sort of have to be ready for anything.
And I think one of the benefits of local organisations that you're working with are that they are very flexible in terms of how they can operate and adapt to the challenges that they're facing quite quickly. But one of the challenges they face, of course, is funding, which we've touched on. And the Mayor obviously launched and has had his first wave of Loved and Wanted funding, which obviously contributes towards some of the challenges that we've talked about today. You've seen that being allocated in terms of the first round. Were you feeding into how that might be shaped either this time, or will you be looking to shape that going forward?
So we were a part of the conversations around developing that fund, and I think it is a really positive addition to kind of both the conversation around, London and cohesion and kind of being a place for everyone, but also in a really practical way. Those loved and wanted kind of community centres are also sort of acting as hubs in their local areas. So I think, that's been very successful as far as I understand. I think a bit beyond that, some of the work around community resilience hubs and so on are also a way of sort of building up that sense of capacity, knowing what to do, having kind of the resources that are needed in place before we need them. But I think there's no doubt funding remains a challenge.
And in terms of one of the organisations that got funded locally to me is a Christian centre which supports people from all sorts of backgrounds, and people are obviously citizens and asylum seekers and refugees and so on as well. But for a Christian centre, it actually had people throwing bricks through the church window, the church door, over and over again, which is obviously incredibly unchristian of whoever kept on doing that. But what sort of challenges are you seeing organisations that are trying to deliver this work on the ground facing?
Yeah, so I think sort of just thinking a little bit more broadly, what we're hearing is organisations who are identified as working with communities that are othered in some way, shape or form, are sort of seeing increased kind of potentially threats around their premises, concerns about their staff safety, challenges in sort of publicly showing that this is their premises and what they're working with, and at times being sort of targeted by kind of far right social media, all of these things, which actually, particularly for smaller groups, is very difficult to sort of know how to respond to. You don't have a communications team that can kind of pick up the slack. It's often, a couple of people for whom this is something they do along with the day job. So I think just kind of going back to how do we respond to that, I think a part of that is about building that sort of skills and capacity. And as LSEP, we do try and both respond to those needs by providing training, good practice, kind of other resources, but also I think really thinking about sort of long-term skills development plan for the sector. I think that's a part of how we have to recognise that environment has changed and the sort of ecosystem needs to adapt to be able to meet the new challenges.
Thank you. And Catherine, if I can move back to you, just touched on cybersecurity earlier. Could you just update us in terms of some of the achievements that you've made over the last year in that particular area?
Yes, thank you. I mean, as you know, cyber is a priority in terms of risk and the work that we're doing through the London Resilience Partnership. It was the main item on the London Resilience Forum agenda February 25. And in the time I'm here, the only risk that we have taken to the LRF and said this is an important enough risk that we need to have a strategic discussion about together. So, of course, it remains a significant and growing risk. We have our cyber response framework that we have, we're already updating, I think last time I came to talk to you, and actually looking at again, because so we've recently had led an exercise Sentinel. So this was with every local authority in London, and it was cyber-based exercise. So it was, looking at what a cyber attack would look like, but also included some of the sort of longer term recovery aspects. And I should say thank you to the committee for the report on cyber, which I thought was a very useful kind of articulation, not just of what the problem is, but why it's so difficult to fix, like some of the legacy systems and those kind of things that are actually quite difficult can be difficult to understand. Well, why can't we just kind of fix some of this? So it was also, cyber was a main item at the Local Authority Regional Resilience Board that I attended last week, because as well as the exercise, of course, there was the cyber attack, which my team were very closely involved in the kind of multi-agency coordination around that. So we'll be kind of part of the lessons learned. We'll be finalising some of that next month. So our cyber framework is going to be one of those that will be, we're not going to put on a shelf and say we'll update it every 2 years like we might with some risks. We understand that's going to have to keep being evolving.
Thank you.
Thanks. Assembly Member Russell, back to you.
Thank you. I just wanted to pick up on a risk that is a high harm risk, which is the risk of heat waves. And we've had some summers recently where we've seen 40-degree temperatures in London, and I know of someone whose flat got up to 50 degrees indoors in a modern development during that particular summer. So I'm just wanting an update on your work preparing for heat waves, and also whether you think that the learning that you've made on heat waves is being kind of followed through into all the different areas of the Mayor's work where it could be. I mean, I'm thinking about sort of planning and the kind of controls around what kind of homes get built, whether single aspect homes, for instance, are acceptable.
Thank you very much for the question. I feel very topical, but also a chronic risk. So it's one of our risks that is very much on our minds for how we might deal with it in the coming weeks, as well as what we're going to do for 50 or 100 years. And you're also absolutely right to draw out the kind of integration required with policy right across the GLA. You've talked about planning there, infrastructure, environmental. It's certainly one of the reasons why we have to look at resilience as a kind of cross-cutting priority across the GLA. You know that we see impacts far beyond the sort of health space. There's wildfires, there's destruction of property through that. There's the impact on kind of tourism and culturally. There's economic impacts, the productivity. So it's definitely something that has kind of really wide-ranging impacts. So we have the severe weather and natural hazards framework, which sets out kind of how we respond to heat waves, and we work very closely, as you'd expect, with the UK Health Security Agency, with the NHS and other partners, with the London Fire Brigade, and it really is one of those cross-cutting risks. David Bellamy, as chair of the LRF, will be bringing together partners on the 9th of June for every year we do a summer preparedness briefing and a winter preparedness briefing. So this will be our summer preparedness briefing. So we'll be talking to partners about how prepared they feel for a heat wave. Has anything changed? What else do they need from the partnership? So that will be one of the risks that we'll be really getting into there. And just to add one more thing there, so on the 1st of July, we'll be undertaking another exercise Vesta. So that will be exploring the response to a significant heat event. And that is being run alongside 3 other LRFs in the South East. So that will be a really good exercise to test not just what might happen in London, but if this is a kind of broader national event, how would we manage that?
Okay, so things like, because obviously there's the impact on infrastructure, bridges, and, we know in London lots of bridges, because they're expanding and contracting more than they were necessarily designed for. We're seeing more and more bridges with speed limits or with or being closed to traffic. So there's do you have sort of like TfL? Are they part of all of this as well?
Yes, absolutely. TfL, the police, the Environment Agency, we all come together because these risks are so cross-cutting.
And is the community response also involved in there? Because I would have thought that for high temperatures and the impact on older people, and we know that there's a direct correlation between temperatures going up and ambulance call-outs for older people who are getting into trouble sort of with breathing or sort of heart health issues. with every degree that the temperature goes up. Is there a sort of community element to that, within those preparedness exercises?
Yeah, definitely. I will turn to Geeta, who will probably want to answer that from her perspective. But yes, LSEP are invited to these preparedness briefings, and we'll be part of that. We will also have community representation at the exercises we do and kind of draw them right into that. And we're also doing some specific work that Geeta might want to talk about around cool spaces, which I know we've talked about here before, and we're now providing some funding for cool spaces too.
Thank you. So yes, just to add to that, as LSEP and in partnership with the London Borough's Faith Network, so our faith colleagues, we do run kind of training twice a year around extreme weather, and that is about building the skills and capacity of community groups to be able to kind of offer good advice, understand kind of what some of the risks are, share information, those trusted relationships again. And we sort of bring those in with expertise from like the Red Cross or the Met Office, and also from community groups who are already sort of working with groups that might be more vulnerable. So you mentioned older people or, for example, families in temporary accommodation. So really trying to kind of get share that knowledge and expertise. Alongside that, we were also part of, was it exercise Operation Helios?
Yes.
Yes, which was about sort of testing some scenarios if there was extreme weather, extreme heat in London. And in terms of our role, we were then able to work specifically with a group of I think about 110 participants across 8 London boroughs to, again, sort of draw them into those conversations, encourage that kind of thinking about what would we do, how would we need to react. So I think, again, sort of that kind of preparedness and getting ready for something which we know is a chronic risk and is likely to sort of be something we're all dealing with for some time. In terms of the cool spaces, we currently have a small project which is looking at recruiting up to 10 cool spaces across London. There'll be a small kind of budget to go along with that, and an opportunity for those cool spaces to kind of plan how to engage local communities, again thinking about those who may be particularly sort of more vulnerable or at risk. And that is still recruiting, I think. So we haven't agreed on where those will be yet. But it's an opportunity for people to sort of, I guess, engage with that programme.
10 across London doesn't sound...
So just to add to that, so there's 250 cool spaces across London, but 10 of them will receive some funding to do some of the specific things that Geeta talked about there.
Cool, thank you.
And City Hall is a cool space.
It's a cool space in every sense. Thank you.
Thanks. Assembly Member Prince.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. I'm sure you are familiar with the issues we've had when the weather gets warm in Rainham with what's called Arnold's Field in Lorna's Lane. The council have tried to find a solution, but there seems to be some resistance from the owner. Hopefully now that I'm going to be the leader of the council, I'll actually be involved in some of the meetings. I know I've been excluded previously, which is a bit of an indictment, but there you go. So can you tell me what the GLA are doing about this from a preparedness sense, and also the fact it has quite a big effect on people's health in the area?
About the Launders Lane, about the issues in Wennington in particular. So we, in London Resilience Unit, we are not directly involved in most of those conversations, but I'm happy to kind of take that away and maybe write to you with an update on that, like as far as I can.
There really are, big public health issues with this. I know the council have been trying to resolve it, but had resistance from the owner, just be interesting to know what the GLA can do, what the GLA's position is. Yeah. Because obviously every time it goes up, the fire brigade have to use a lot of resources there. So there is a massive cost to the GLA.
Yeah, I'm happy to write to you on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Assembly Member Georgie.
Thank you. And my question sort of touches sort of somewhere in between Assembly Member Russell and Assembly Member Mahfouz. So this one's about energy supply and mitigation. So when this committee investigated resilience in July 2024, I questioned the Mayor's Chief of Staff on resilience arrangements for energy supply and mitigation for electricity blackouts. A lot has happened in the world over the last 2 years, so I asked the both of you a similar question. Has a review been conducted into the risk of electricity blackouts due to global events and what mitigations have been put in place?
Thank you for the question. Certainly when we're looking at national power outage, I mean, that's one of the very top risks on the national risk register. And you clearly understand this very well, but the risk is incredibly difficult to manage because if you don't have power, you don't have communications, and it's very difficult for anybody to kind of do our normal responses because we can't use our computers and pick up the phone and all the rest of it. So I know you understand that, but just to set out some of the challenge. And from my experience from leading the national team in Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government, where I was headed up the Resilience and Emergencies Division, again involved in the national exercise and the national planning for these risks. But it's kind of a very difficult one, if you like, to manage. And so it's something we're mindful of the risk. We want to understand how that risk changes with things like international events. So whether that's about hostile state activity or issues around oil and that kind of thing. So how the risk changes. But again, it is about how do we respond to a major incident of that kind. You need strategic coordination, you need communication with people, you need to understand, do you need to get water out to people, food out to people? And so in a sense, it is about using our common capabilities, but when you're constrained by the fact you can't use the usual things. So I would certainly say it's a risk that whether we're looking at London or nationally, is a very worrying one in terms of how we can respond.
I appreciate that. Obviously, it's a major concern and a high risk, but have we done any sort of testing or mapping it out or sort of role playing on it? How have we? I appreciate you've just outlined all of the concerns and things where things go horribly wrong, what could happen, but have we gained this out?
So I don't think we've done a specific exercise since the LIU's been set up on national power outage. But we have, we've dealt with a number of power outages and some of them more serious than others, which help us learn about what works and what doesn't work in terms of providing, understanding where vulnerable people are, for example, and what kind of support they might need. So it is definitely something that is evolving in terms of continuously improving what our frameworks look like. But I don't think there's been a specific exercise.
That does alarm me slightly because, all it takes these days is a 16-year-old with a laptop to bring down the grid. I know that sounds mad, but sadly that's the world that we live in because we are so interconnected. And I think that goes back to Assembly Mahfouz's point with regard to cybersecurity. In particular, we're at a time where our grid is, should we say, open to outside actors and companies, and what we've seen backdoor attacks through various local authorities across the country. I think, I'm staggered to, it's not your fault, I appreciate that, but I'm staggered that there isn't some sort of national mandate to look at this sort of stuff and to have an exercise on it.
So there was in recent years, I'm saying recent years, I would say in the last 5 years, there was a major national exercise called Mighty Oak, which was a national power outage, which taught us a lot about where those gaps are. But it's certainly something that I'll take away and have another think about on the back of the session today.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And moving on, is still you, to the last on the internal audit.
Is that me? Great. So, right, leading straight on then. So I just have one question on this. So what contingency arrangements are currently in place until the full business continuity plan is completed?
So the corporate business continuity plan is led outside of the London Resilience Unit at that CMT level, and I know it's something that's being worked on kind of as we speak, not least because it was flagged through the audit, the GLA as a Category 1 responder as something that that needed to be revised and looked at. But within the London Resilience Unit, we have our own business continuity procedures, which are about, people, premises, infrastructure. So we're one of the functions within the GLA that absolutely needs to be able to operate 24/7 through any kind of incident, business continuity or otherwise. And so we have our own kind of plans in place. So, for example, you'll remember recently where there were the changes to the IT system, the Office 365 migration, although for most of the teams within the GLA, that was something that sort of happened on the Friday and it came back on the Monday. Of course, for us, we needed a very special plan, including moving people over at different times and making sure that we, even if something happened at midnight, just as soon as the button had gone off, that we were able to get on and do what we needed to do.
I appreciate that, but essentially your team is a backup of a backup. And I don't mean that in a dismissive way whatsoever. You guys are doing your job, and obviously, it's reassuring to hear that your business continuity plan is up and running. But given there is no GLA-wide one currently, does that not make us less resilient as an organisation?
I mean, it's certainly been flagged by the audit for that reason. So yeah, and we'll support the team who are developing it.
Yeah, I feel like you need to do more than that. Just be like, get on with it, because I'm sorry, I don't mean to be dismissive, but it's.
I couldn't be subtle.
Yeah, as just colleagues know, I'm never subtle. But I think in terms of, I guess, reassurance for us as the Oversight Committee, you have really underlined and stressed how important this is for us as an organisation. I'll take that nod as acceptance and a yes. Okay. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone have any final questions? Panel? No? Okay, so with that, can I thank you both for coming here today and answering questions, and again to reiterate that you did it in such a short turnaround, having to brief yourselves and obviously make your diaries available. So we really appreciate you giving that time to the committee. So thank you. Can I? Oh, and you may leave, but you can also stay. There's about to be a really interesting presentation, if I don't say so myself. So, can we ask committee? But thank you. If you do want to leave, that's fine. Can I ask the committee to note the report's background, put in questions to invited guests, and note the subsequent discussion? Delegate authority to the chair in consultation with the deputy chair and party group lead members to agree any output arising from the discussion. Thank you. So we are doing things a bit backwards. So now we're going on to the minutes. Can we confirm the minutes of the meeting of the 12th of March 2026 to sign as a group? Thank you. Summary list of actions. Can we note the completed and ongoing actions arising from previous meetings? Noted. Okay. Action taken under delegated authority. Can I ask committee to note the following recent action taken by the former chair in consultation with the deputy chair and party group lead members under delegated authority to agree the committee's response to the consultation on arrangement for people's question time in March 2026, the committee's response to the consultation on a proposed alternative venue for people's question time in March 2026,
Percentage it, then no.
No, don't say no. I don't know what we do with no's. Noted. Noted. Yeah, we're noted.
You can refuse to note it.
Yeah. I have not noted it.
Super noted it.
Can I also ask the committee to note the consultation letters from the senior manager from the events for London?
Noted.
Thank you. Moving on to the rapporteurship, recruitment and retention of the Metropolitan Police Officers. Before we move on, I'd like to declare an interest, as I'm the person proposing this. I'm therefore going to pass the chairing of this to the committee's Deputy Chair, Assembly Member Mahfouz, and will take my place on the panel to answer any questions the committee may have.
Right, if we can have some order. Thank you very much. Could I have the procedure note? No need for the gavel. So thank you very much, Assembly Member Best. We now move on to proposal, of course, of a rapporteurship investigation into the recruitment and retention of the Metropolitan Police Officers on behalf of the Police and Crime Committee. So I'd like, we've already got, of course, Assembly Member Best here in the hot seat. So if we could start off this item by asking you to introduce what your rapporteurship is about. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And I believe the committee agreed a 40-minute presentation in the pre-meet. So
40 seconds.
Yeah, okay. All right. Well, just to say, obviously, I'm sure that the importance of this rapporteurship is understood by everybody on the committee. Actually, it arises from the Met's own New Met for London plan, in which they cited that there was an unprecedented challenge in terms of recruitment and retention. We've obviously seen police numbers falling since 2023 for a number of reasons, but the Met itself points to the trifecta of wages, cost of living and confidence in policing. So what we'd like to do with this rapporteurship is, and actually there's something been interested in for quite a while, and I was really pleased when the idea of rapporteurships came back, because I do think this takes a cross-party sense to look over this and look at it in real detail, given the very, very complex and different makeup of the police with very varying different reasons for why people may believe that retention and recruitment isn't working. So it needs to take a hold of all those opinions, which for that reason is why the list of stakeholders we've got is so wide. We'll be speaking to the Met Commissioner and senior leaders, the Met Police Fed, the Police Federation of England and Wales, the National Black Association, the Metropolitan Black Police Association and other police staff associations, both serving and former Met officers, Met Friendly, MOPAC and the College of Policing. And we're, of course, open to any further suggestions from Assembly members, either today or in the coming months. But the idea essentially is that we'll look in a positive way, both regionally, nationally and internationally, at what is successful in creating good morale, which in turn obviously can help affect retention, and in which ways people have positively affected recruitment. So some early examples being within London, we know that there's certain geographical units or different specialising units that have a much varying degree of morale. So we'd like to investigate why the morale is much higher in certain areas and if there's anything that can be applied elsewhere. We also know it's really hard, obviously, to compare the Met to any other police force in the UK, given its sheer size. But if we look at examples such as Humberside, they were in a really poor place in terms of morale and confidence, recruitment and retention. But they went on to have a plan which was much like the Met's cultural plan, but it really worked for them, and they are now one of the highest rated morale in the country, and that in turn is helping with their retention and retainment. So what can we learn from places like Humberside and Cumbria being another example as well? And then internationally, especially places like Singapore, it will be interesting to look at why retention and recruitment is so high in those areas, and anything that we can learn in London.
Thank you very much. And that was well under the 40 minutes that you're allocated. So that's kudos to you for doing that. So I'll go first to Assembly Member Prince.
Thank you. I mean, it's an excellent idea and well done for putting this forward. You mentioned that you'll be talking to people who were in the service before. Are you actually interested in learning from people who have had very poor experiences in the service?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think what we want to do is make sure that what we're reflecting is a number of different views, because people are going to have very different views, aren't they? So we really want to capture the fact that some people are going to have a very poor experience, but we can't have a report just saying it was crap in the service. So we also want to capture some of the things that are more positive and how they could be better, but also in those responses from people that have left the service, old officers, it would be really good to focus on, instead of just being negative, what is the thing that could have changed that would have made them stay?
Yeah, I think that's the point. It's not a case of trying to rewrite history. It's a case of trying to learn. And as you say, if we can get positive responses, then obviously we want to have more of that. But I think we also have to understand where people have literally been driven out of the service, people with a lot of potential, and why that was allowed to happen as well, and how we can rectify that. Because it's not about, I don't think this is about kicking anybody or criticising the Met per se. It's about learning and improving the chances of us getting better police officers.
Yeah, and if I could say on that, then we also have to understand that the reason people will feel they're driven out of the organisation will be very different, and in some areas conflicting, and that's a reality we really need to confront. And I don't think that we have really confronted that as much as the differentiation of opinion and the how people respond to the change of the Met. And I think we need to confront the fact that people are going to come back with responses of why they've been driven out, and at times those responses are going to conflict with each other, and we need to face up to that and look at it.
Thank you. Next, Assembly Member Bakari.
Thank you. You mentioned the Humberside cultural plan. You said cultural plan. So I presume you mean as in there was an approach to tackle what the kind of culture within the Metropolitan Police to do with like racism, homophobia, things like that. And you're trying to do a comparative to that approach to the Metropolitan Police. Is that right?
I think I'd struggle to use the word comparative because, as I said, the Met Police is a very unique organisation that you're never going to be able to use a direct comparative of. So we simply can't compare Humberside Police Force to the Met. We can't do that. But what we can do is look at the fact that there was a police force with very low morale, problems with retention and recruitment, and they made changes through a plan which has ostensibly worked. Is there anything we can learn? I don't know that we can compare it and say, well, that worked there, so it's going to work here, because the scales of the police forces are just so vastly different. But I think we can certainly look and say, did they do something similar to what we tried, but it worked there and it hasn't worked here? Perhaps that's just a fact of scale, that it can't happen in the same way, or perhaps there's a different way in which we approach it.
I mean, obviously, there's been a continuing issue about recruitment in terms of ensuring that the Metropolitan Police also reflects London in its diversity as well. Is that something that you'll be touching on? Because I know there are some Assembly members who are saying that the challenges of reaching those specific targets has been a challenge to then recruit as well. Is that something that you might be touching on as well?
It's something I will be led by what stakeholders say. So if they bring that up, then that's something that we will include. I'm not going to make any.
So you're not making any assumptions?
I'm not
making
any assumptions.
Yeah. Okay, good. All right, okay. Thanks.
Okay. Next up, Assembly Member Baker.
Thanks, Deputy Chair. I've just got a couple of questions. Obviously, it is a really important issue. It's such an important issue that I've heard it talked about many, many times in this room before. And my understanding of rapporteurships are that they are when we don't have space or for some reason an issue isn't being taken up by the relevant committee. Can you explain to us why this is needed to be done as a rapporteurship rather than through the committee?
Yeah, I think there's so many different stakeholders here. I simply don't think it could be done by the committee work plan, because I think what you have when we come into the committee structure is we have a lot of questioning, and the way in which it's supposed to be through the police committee is direct questioning of the deputy mayor for most of our sessions. And then when we have a thematic review, there's less room than we would be able to meet with all of these stakeholders and include everybody in that. I think the things that I'm talking about here is just not something we've done before in terms of looking, even in terms of London, pulling out good examples, but definitely we haven't looked nationally or internationally at good examples.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so
just
I think
not clear, but I mean, I'm looking at and it's an interesting point in terms of the format of the PCC. I haven't been on PCC, but there isn't anything stopping PCC doing informal sessions, speaking to former police officers. Everyone else looks, to be honest, bog standard for any investigation. Certainly on transport, we would. So I'm still not understanding why it's suitable for a rapporteurship. Was it clear from the PCC that they wouldn't have space to discuss this at all? So we're not going to talk about police numbers for the next year on PCC?
Well, I saw that they weren't, but I'm talking about tackling this in a way where we can look at all the evidence and come to some recommendations. And in that form, obviously there's going to be
the PCC would look at a subject and come to recommendations?
Obviously there's going to be punchy questions, right, continually about police numbers. But there wasn't anything like this in the schedule or the programme for the PCC when I put this forward as a rapporteurship. And like I say, it's something that I've been thinking we need to do for a long time.
Isn't it being looked at in budget on the 1st of June?
They're doing
police numbers.
They're doing something like this.
They're doing police numbers. I suppose the question is why the subject couldn't be tackled in a format outside.
I highly doubt, and I think we've got some budget members here. I highly doubt that they're looking at it in the same format as I'm suggesting, but I'm happy to be corrected.
No, but you are saying that this format couldn't be done through PCC, and that's why it has to be done through a rapporteurship. I mean, I think it's reasonable for the Oversight Committee, considering the integrity of our committees and making sure that the right subjects are discussed in the right places, is clear about why scrutiny resources are now being used outside PCC, which does meet very regularly, as I understand it.
I don't think I'm saying it has to be done this way. I've put forward a proposal which I think works, and I think will include not only members of PCC, but we know this is one of the biggest issues. This is one of the biggest issues, and we know that a lot of different members around the Assembly want to be involved in. So therefore, those members can be involved if they want to come along and be part of this particular piece of work. They can be. So I do think it really does suit a rapporteurship, but I'm not saying that's the only way it can be done. Clearly, we've got a committee structure and scrutiny structure that I think works and I think is good. But the reason I put it forward is I think this is the best way to do it.
Okay. And just in terms of timing, it is quite a substantial investigation, a proposal. And without, when it's being done separate from the committee structure, I mean, I'm a bit concerned that you might not actually get it done in the timescales. And obviously, that will then put blocks on other rapporteurships that maybe genuinely couldn't be done through the committee structure. Are you confident you're going to be able to meet those timescales?
Yeah, I always meet timescales.
Do you?
Yeah.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing you meet those timescales.
I think so. One of the things that's disappointing.
No, I'm done.
Okay. You may still have the opportunity to come back with what you wanted to say, because we've got Assembly Member Georgie next.
Assembly Member Best, would you like to finish that thought that you were just going?
I was going to just say that I was disappointed that obviously I came forward with this in November 2025, and it was sat on for quite a while. So the initial timescales that we had have been pushed back, but I'm still confident that we'll do it within the timescales that have been applied. And actually, the scrutiny officers have really adapted well to the rapporteurship scheme. They did a really good job with the first one on health on school sports pitches. And so obviously some of it is a little bit beyond my control. If they have emergencies or they need to turn their attention to some other things, I'm sure the Assembly would rather they do that. But as long as there's no emergencies or anything out of the ordinary, then we will meet the timescales as proposed.
And Assembly Member Best, you know, given that you have experience both on PCC, you've come forward with the rapporteurship, who, you know, I'm not overly familiar with it. As people know, I'm ignorant on a lot of things. But calm down. I would ask you, do you feel that you've had to come forward with this because it is quite a meaty subject, and quite frankly that any one committee would have to dedicate a lot of time to this, which quite frankly our scheduling does not allow?
Yeah, I think what the rapporteurship does is it creates more space to hear from the stakeholder voices as opposed from what the PCC does, which is a lot of us trying to put our views forward with speeches vainly, barely veiled as questions. And so I think this actually leaves more space for the stakeholders to come forward. And I think that's what's the really important bit, is there's the hearing side and the trying to get the evidence base, but also doing that external work of looking at the examples, as I've said, across London, across the nation and internationally. And I think, and I'm not saying that it's wrong to say this couldn't be done another way, but clearly I brought it forward as it's something that I think as an Assembly we should be doing a bit more to tackle, and I think a rapporteurship works perfectly for this. I've been kind of waiting for rapporteurships to come back on the agenda for 5 years so I could put this forward as an idea, because I think it will work in this format.
And is it your assessment that actually this is quite a non-political, bipartisan subject, which I think all of us as Assembly members, unless you're not a very good one, actually believes that we should be retaining more of our police officers, and this is simply a way of discovering how we can do that best on a cross-party basis?
Yeah, and I think, like I say, it is certainly has to be bipartisan, because, and this is to my earlier point to Assembly Member Prince, is a lot of the views held within the Met would conflict with my own as to what I believe are the reasons why retention is being affected. And if I may be so bold, Assembly Member Russell probably has very different views to me as why retention is being affected. But both of those things are can be true at the same time. And I think actually this is a really good way to confront that, by looking in a cross-party way at all the different views that are held across the Met and why they may be affecting morale, retention and recruitment.
And can you give me 100% assurance that if things come along and there are particular threads you and the team have to pull at, which make you feel uncomfortable or disagree with why you believe our retention is not as good as it possibly could be, that you will continue following that path? Yeah,
absolutely. And obviously, this isn't like if we wanted to do something that was partisan, we would very easily go to the Conservative Research Group and put forward a report and do it on our own terms. I actually think this is past that. I think this is something that has to be looked at in a cross-party way through all stakeholders if we actually want to address retention and recruitment in the Met and morale, which I think is, for most Assembly members, one of the biggest kind of questions that we're battling with.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Assembly Member Prince wanted to come back in.
Thank you. Yeah, having done a rapporteurship myself in the early days, I found it invaluable, actually. I think it gives the member a bit more freedom. They can move a bit quicker. You can look at stuff in greater depth. And, you know, this is a really critical issue for London. You know, it's bad enough that the actual police are being given poor strategic direction, but we do need to keep our police officers, or the good ones anyway. And there definitely is a problem. So I personally would welcome it, and you know, if there's anything more you would like to add, but I really do think that being able to do it on a cross-party basis as well, rather than just one political party, will give it a lot more credibility, and perhaps, with a bit of luck, the people who should be listening will listen.
Assembly Member Georgiou.
Point of clarification, I've had confirmation for the satisfaction of Assembly Member Baker. The Budget and Performance meeting will be about funding and numbers, not retention. I hope that helps clarify.
May I come in? But absolutely. But I think my point is that this is a subject that is tackled multiple times, over and over again. And I was just clarifying from the Oversight Committee quite reasonably as to why it was being done in this specific way when the subject is being tackled and when there is a standing committee that meets every 2 weeks that could also look at the subject. And I think that's a reasonable question.
Once again...
Oh, sorry. I don't think it's a back and forward.
No, sorry, excuse me. Okay, I think you've made your point and it's been answered. So Assemblymember Rossell has been patiently waiting and hasn't had a chance to ask anything yet. So Assemblymember Rossell, please.
Thank you. And I just want to pick up on Assemblymember Best's acknowledgement of the cross-party nature of a rapporteurship, and I think that is really important. And I just wanted to say how glad I was to see that the impact of culture is a point that you are taking up on the impact of the cultural issues that have been exposed in the Met on recruitment and retention, and how I think that's really important that you are picking that up. So very glad to see that from a cross-party position.
Thank you. I wouldn't want to pick out any parties for special praise, but I would say I actually really value the Green Party's input on this rapporteurship, because I know on a normal basis we might have really different views. So actually I really appreciate the stakeholders that have been put forward and the ideas that Assemblymember Garbett, can I call her that now? She's passed, or Mayor Garbett.
Former Assemblymember Garbett.
Former member Garbett, now Mayor Garbett. I really appreciated what she added into this, because I probably wouldn't have come to those ideas on my own, and scrutiny might not have, so it was actually really valuable.
Can I say thank you, and particularly on behalf of our RSO, who does an awful lot of work, really takes that cross-party nature of it seriously, so thank you for acknowledging it.
Fantastic. I thought at one point you were going to announce that you were crossing the floor.
Well, you've seen how things are going over my way. I might as well.
You've already crossed the floor from this side to that side. Thanks everybody for their questions. I guess, so just to come back to, because obviously when this was originally submitted, it was, I think, originally a timetable as per the document that you were hoping it was going to be agreed in January. Obviously, we also had another rapporteurship, which was on the table, which I think was submitted just before yours, and therefore we consider that one that is now coming to a conclusion this month and will be producing its report. You've expressed why it hasn't gone to PCC and why you're doing as a rapporteurship. The 6-month timetable that you set out within the proposal, is that still the timetable that you're going to be working to?
It's a 6 to 7 month timetable, but yeah.
Yeah. So just to...
And like I said, I was just going to say, I think that if there were any delay, it would be because there was not the resources within the scrutiny committee that they'd be doing other things that the Assembly would want them to do. So I would hope that people would appreciate that they would be focusing on emergency matters or people leaving. But aside from that, yes, the 7 month. If we have the resources promised, then yeah.
No, absolutely, and this is about obviously allocating resource dedicated to the rapporteurship, in which case then obviously if other people come forward with other ones, they're able to have that considered later on in the year and following on from when you conclude yours. So just to be absolutely clear with the committee, when is that date that or when is that month that you're hoping to produce the report on this? And I appreciate there's obviously August, like there's summer holidays, and that's why I'm just sort of making sure that you're, that's all factored in and so on.
Yeah, I think we'd want to do it by the end of the year. So I'd essentially be looking at December, but then obviously if it's not going to work with getting stuff out before recess, then maybe we'd publish in early January. But that's the kind of time we'd be hoping for.
Yeah, absolutely reasonable. So yeah. December or January. Thank you very much. Okay, so at this point, I'll ask Assembly members if they're happy to agree the proposal that we have. Yeah. And note the terms of reference and methodology for the proposed investigation, which have been agreed by the Police and Crime Committee. Thank you very much. And it does say here that I have to hand back the chairing of the meeting back to Assemblymember Best. So is that agreed that I hand it back? Okay, thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for that. Moving on to the Secretariat quarterly report. It says here to note, but I think that the committee first wanted to pass on thanks, and I'll turn to Assemblymember Russell.
Yeah, I just think, just looking through this report, just seeing all the work that the committees across the Assembly have done over the last quarter, it's just really exciting. Great kind of list of different things that have been being covered. Planning, covering energy infrastructure and planning. Environment Committee looking at local food growing and heat networks. Fire Committee looking at fire contaminants. Health, violence against healthcare staff. Renters' rights on Housing Committee. Transport looking both at assaults on transport workers and the big report on accessibility and inclusion in transport. Police and crime looking at hate crime and violence against women and girls. I think these reports really make a difference to Londoners' lives. It shows how we are thinking about Londoners and bringing Londoners' voices into City Hall. And but I also just think that we should recognise that actually our scrutiny support has been evolving, and I know that the KPIs that our scrutiny team are working to are really improving and have shown a massive shift over this last year, and I think we should recognise that and say thank you. So that's what I wanted to say.
Shall we propose a vote of thanks to the scrutiny team and Zoe?
Second that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, thank you. We will let them know that, I'm sure. If they're not watching this intently, then thank you. So I ask the committee to note the Secretariat quarterly report. Noted. Thank you. Moving on to the committee work plan, can I ask the committee to note the work programme and meeting dates for 26-27 as agreed by the London Assembly at its annual meeting on the 11th of May 26. Thank you. And the date of the next meeting is scheduled to take place on the 18th of June 2026 at 10 a.m. in the chamber. See you all there. And with that, there's no other urgent business aside from the ones we've already done, so I will close the meeting.
This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater London Authority. Please stand by. This is the broadcast from City Hall, the home of the Greater